His mother warned him that day, but he laughed and walked away. What happened that night would change his life forever. In a quiet village surrounded by tall palm trees and red earth roads, there lived a boy named Tond. The village was known for its peaceful life. Farmers woke before sunrise, women gathered at the river to fetch water, and children played freely in the open fields. It was the kind of place where everyone knew each other, and stories were passed from one generation to the next like treasured heirlooms. Tond was about 14 years old, strong, energetic, and full of life. He had bright eyes that sparkled with curiosity, but behind that curiosity was something else: stubbornness. It was not the kind of stubbornness that made people admire determination, it was the kind that made elders shake their heads in concern. From a young age, Tond had always believed he knew better than others. When told to stay indoors during heavy rain, he would run outside to play. When warned not to climb tall trees, he would climb even higher just to prove a point. And every time he escaped danger, he felt more convinced that nothing bad could ever happen to him. His mother, Amina, was a hard-working woman who raised him alone. She sold food in the village market and was known for her kindness and wisdom. Many people came to her not just to buy food, but to seek advice. She had seen much of life and understood things that Tond, in his youthful pride, could not yet see. Every evening, after returning from the market, Amina would sit outside their small hut and tell stories of bravery, stories of kindness, and sometimes, stories of warning. Tond often listened, but not always with attention. To him, they were just old tales meant to scare children. One particular place in the village carried many of those warnings: the forest. The forest stood at the edge of the village like a silent guardian. It was thick, dark, and mysterious. Even during the day, sunlight struggled to pass through its dense canopy. The elders often travelers who entered without purpose would lose their way forever. Others believed the forest held spirits that tested the hearts of those who dared to step inside. Whether the stories were true or not, one thing was certain: people respected the forest, and they stayed away from it. But not Tond. To him, the forest was not something to fear. It was something to explore. One afternoon, after playing with his friends, Tond overheard them talking about the forest. "Have you ever gone inside?" one boy asked nervously. Another quickly shook his head. "No. My father said never to go near it." Tond laughed loudly, placing his hands on his hips. "You are all afraid of nothing," he said. "It is just a forest, not a monster." His friends looked at him with a mix of admiration and worry. "If you are so brave," one of them said, "why don't you go there yourself?" Tond smirked. "Maybe I will." That evening, as the sun began to set and the sky turned orange, Tond returned home. His mother was preparing food, the warm smell filling the air. She looked at him and smiled gently. "You are back early today." "Yes, Mother," he replied casually, sitting down. After a moment of silence, she spoke again, her tone more serious. "Tond, I heard something today." He looked up, slightly annoyed. "What is it?" "I heard you were talking about the forest." Tond shrugged. "So what if I was?" Amina paused, then set aside what she was doing. She sat beside him and looked directly into his eyes. "Listen to me carefully," she said. "That forest is not a place for children. Many who go there without wisdom do not return the same, if they return at all." Tond sighed, clearly uninterested. "Mother, people exaggerate these things. It is just trees and animals." Amina shook her head slowly. "You think so because you have not seen what I have seen," she replied quietly. "There are things in this world that do not reveal themselves easily. Danger does not always shout, it sometimes waits." But Tond was already losing patience. Tond said, "I am not afraid. Nothing will happen to me." His mother's expression changed, not angry, but worried. Confidence is good, she said softly, but pride can blind you. Ton stood up, stretching. I am going to sleep, he said, clearly wanting to end the conversation. That night, as he lay on his mat, he stared at the ceiling. His mother's words echoed in his mind, but instead of fear, they sparked curiosity. What could be so dangerous about that forest, he thought. The more he thought about it, the more determined he became. He imagined himself walking through the forest, returning safely, and proving everyone wrong. He imagined the looks on his friends' faces: shock, admiration, respect. By morning, his decision was made. The next day, his mother prepared to go to the market as usual. Turned, she called, stay at home and help with chores. I will return later. Yes, mother, he replied. But his mind was already elsewhere. As soon as she left, he waited for a while, making sure she was truly gone. The village was calm, with people going about their daily activities. Ton stepped outside and looked toward the direction of the forest. From where he stood, it appeared distant yet inviting, like a secret waiting to be uncovered. He took a deep breath. This is my chance, he said to himself. Without another thought, Ton began to walk. The closer he got, the quieter everything became. The laughter of children faded. The sounds of the village disappeared. Even the wind seemed to slow down. He reached the edge of the forest and stopped. For a brief moment, hesitation crept into his heart. The trees stood tall and still, their shadows stretching across the ground. The air felt different, cooler, heavier. But then he remembered his pride. I have come this far, he whispered. I cannot turn back now. And with that, Ton took his first step into the forest. The moment Ton stepped fully into the forest, something changed. It was not something he could see clearly at first, it was something he felt. The air became heavier, as though the forest itself was breathing slowly around him. The warmth of the sun disappeared behind the thick canopy of leaves above, leaving behind a dim, greenish light that barely touched the ground. Ton paused and looked behind him. The path he had just taken seemed different. Not gone, but unclear. For a brief second, doubt whispered in his mind. Maybe I should go back. But pride quickly answered. No. You've just started. There's nothing here. He straightened his shoulders and continued walking. At first, everything seemed normal. He saw trees, vines, and patches of dry leaves under his feet. He heard birds chirping faintly in the distance. But as he moved deeper, the forest began to change. The birds stopped singing. The wind stopped blowing. Even the sound of his own footsteps seemed quieter, as if the ground was swallowing the noise. Ton frowned. This place is strange, he muttered. He kept walking, trying to ignore the growing unease in his chest. He pushed aside branches, stepped over roots, and moved forward with forced confidence. Minutes passed. Or maybe hours. In the forest, time did not feel the same. Ton soon realized something unsettling. He had not seen a single person. Not a hunter. Not a traveler. Not even footprints. It was as if no one had been there for a very long time. Then suddenly, a sound. A faint crack. Ton froze. Who's there? He called out. No answer. He turned slowly, scanning the trees around him. Nothing. Just silence. He shook his head. It's probably an animal, he said, trying to calm himself. But his voice sounded weaker now. Less certain. He continued walking, faster this time. The deeper he went, the darker it became. The trees grew taller, their branches twisting like long fingers blocking out the sky. Shadows stretched across the ground in strange shapes. Then he heard it again. Not a crack this time. A whisper. Soft. Barely audible. But real. Tom's heart began to beat faster. Did I just imagine that? He thought. He stopped walking. The silence returned, but it was no longer empty. It felt like something was watching him. You were warned. Tom spun around instantly. Who said that? He shouted. His voice echoed through the trees, but there was no reply. Panic began to rise in his chest. This is not funny, he yelled. Show yourself. Still nothing. Only silence. Heavy, suffocating silence. Tom's confidence was fading quickly now. He turned and began to walk back in the direction he believed he had come from. But after a few steps, he stopped. The path was gone. Completely gone. Every direction looked the same: trees, shadows, tangled roots. No, 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 he whispered. He turned left. Walked. Nothing familiar. He turned right. Walked faster. Still nothing. His breathing became rapid. I need to get out, he said. He started running. Branches scratched his arms as he pushed through. Leaves crunched loudly under his feet. His heart pounded in his ears. But no matter how far he ran, he was still in the forest. Still lost. Finally, exhausted, he stopped. His chest rose and fell rapidly as he tried to catch his breath. That was when he realized something even worse. The light was fading. Night was coming. The forest, already dark, began to sink into deeper shadows. Shapes became harder to recognize. Every tree began to look like something else, something alive. Tom's fear grew stronger. I shouldn't have come here, he whispered.